Some stories just can't have a happy ending. You do everything right, you do your best, and you still end up dead or worse. Hey, sometimes that's life. However, some movies aren't just happy with stabbing your heart. No, they have to twist the knife, and for some reason we love them for it. I'm Dr. Midnight. Let's check the top cruel endings in horror movies. Number 10. The Mist. Alright. Let's get this one out of the way. I know The Mist is in every list that talks about horror movie endings, but to be fair, it's not without reason. After a storm, several people are in a local market when a strange mist appears along with monsters. It turns out a government experiment opened a door to another dimension, from where the mist and the creatures came. The fear quickly consumes the people, deteriorating their rationality and making them far more dangerous than the monsters outside. Our main characters, however, manage to escape the store at the ending and live in a car. Now, after getting so attached to those characters, and considering the sort of movie we watched, we expected an open kind of ending. Perhaps with them driving away in the mist, giving us the idea that they would keep fighting to survive. What would we get? David kills everyone, including his own son, and steps out of the car yelling for the monsters to come and kill him. But wouldn't you know it? Yeah, the sacrifice was completely pointless. Crap, that's harsh. On a detail, I love that we see that the lady that left the store earlier to get to her children made it out okay. This ending divided a lot of the audience. Some people thought it was a great way to finish the movie, while others felt it robbed the story of its impact and meaning, saying that the original ending that King wrote was a lot better. It's kind of a funny thing when it seems that King himself claimed he prefers the movie version. Now, if I may just give my humble opinion, I actually think both endings work well, and I'm glad they exist. If you think about it, both are about hope, but in two very different tones. The novel is lighter. David leaves a manuscript in another place, telling whoever may find it that he and his friends are heading to a place where they think survivors might be gathering. It ends with him whispering the word hope to his son. The movie version, while taking a darker tone, it's also about the importance of hope and not giving up. I'm not saying I don't see why they resorted to suicide or that their situation wasn't depressing. Far from it. But the point remains that they were about to be saved. So, a depressing and cruel ending? Yes. A meaningful one? Also yes. Number 9. Would You Rather? Oh boy, now it's going to start. Would You Rather is about a woman named Iris who is trying to get money so she can take care of her sick brother. She ends up in a rich man's house with other people who are also in financial need. He agrees to help them with one condition. His guests have to earn his help by going through a series of brutal games, consisting of having to choose between two options such as stabbing the person at your side or being whipped, with the games becoming worse with each round. Sounds like a part of my boss's house. So, after a long night of being tortured mentally and physically, watching people die, even killing the last participant, Iris returns home, only to find that her brother, the one she did all this for, he has killed himself, making everything she endured this night be for nothing whatsoever. Contrary to The Mist, I don't think they intended to do anything with this ending other than literally punch us in the gut. Oh, and the twerk, don't get me wrong. This is the sort of ending that makes the whole movie even more painful when you watch for the second time, knowing how pointless everything is. Number 8. The Descent. Well, this movie already starts with a punch in the gut. Right at the beginning, we watch an accident that kills the husband and daughter of a protagonist, Sarah. Yes, that's how it begins and doesn't get better. A year later, Sarah, who is still dealing with her loss, goes exploring a cave along with her friends. Not only do they get stuck after rocks fall and block their way, not only one of them lied about this being an old cave when it's actually an undiscovered system, not only this means no one knows where they are, but this cave is the lair of several monsters. Wow! If that isn't a situation of should have stayed in bed today, I don't know what it is. As you can imagine, things don't go very well, and by the time the ending comes, most of the girls are dead. Sarah finds out that Juno, the one who got them in this mess I might add, was having an affair with her husband. After everything she's been through, Sarah is not in a very forgiving mood and leaves Juno to die. Now, the American version ends with Sarah finding her way out and reaching the car, screaming when she has a hallucination of the dead Juno. This was the version I first watched, and for some reason it somehow didn't feel right, and not just because it was a jump scare ending. Well, the British version doesn't stop there. Sarah wakes up. Her escape was just a dream. She's still in the cave with no exit inside, now hallucinating that her daughter is sitting in front of her. The camera zooms out, and we hear the monsters approaching. Yep, basically this movie ends with everyone dead. Well, until the sequel came out. Number 7. Oculus. One of the best horror movies I ever watched, Oculus tells us the story of the siblings, Kaylee and Tim. Tim has just been released from a mental institution, and Kaylee wants his help to prove that the events of the past, including how Tim killed their father in self-defense, was because of an antique mirror that drove their parents to insanity, culminating with the father killing their mother and trying to kill them as well. The mirror, however, has been around for a long time and has more than a few tricks. It gets to the point even you, along with the characters, can't be sure of what you see. In the end, Tim tries to break the mirror by using a safe system that Kaylee had prepared earlier, realizing only too late that his sister had been right there. The movie ends with Tim being taken away while screaming about the mirror. One of the reasons why this ending is so messed up is that we get to see what happened with the siblings in the past rather than just hear about it. So we have time to get to know their parents and be more invested when they die. This in turn makes us hope even more that Kay will stop trying to prove anything and just break the mirror. But it doesn't happen, and we have to watch her die while her brother will be blamed for everything that happened. In the end, Kaylee and Tim were no better prepared to deal with the mirror than they were when they were children. So not only the bad guy wins, it wins twice. Number 6. Dread. Clive Barker. Of course he would make into this list somehow. Based on one of his short stories, Dread is about a trio, Quaid, Steven and Cheryl, who starts a project on the nature of fear. However, Quaid is, how can I say it, fucked up in the head. His obsession with understanding his own fears to the fears of others quickly gets out of control. Not satisfied with the basic study they're doing, he decides to start experiments of his own. Considering this is based on a tale by Barker, it goes as well as you'd expect. Quaid kidnaps Cheryl and locks her in a room. The lights constantly on so her sense of time deteriorates. There's no bathroom, only a bucket and some water. Cheryl's a vegetarian and can't even stand the smell of meat due to the connection to her father, who worked in a meat packing plant and would abuse her while still stinking from his job. So, in the center of her room, there is her only source of food and the only way for her to get out. A piece of beef that she has to eat. It may sound simple the way I put it, but trust me, the movie makes it work. We see this girl struggle, her reluctance and her inability to bring herself to eat no matter how hungry she gets. Finally, Cheryl breaks down and eats the meat that by now is rotten. That's already bad enough, but in the end we find that Quaid is still keeping her as his study specimen. He tosses Stephen's body in the room with her with a small knife, wondering out loud,
"Let's see how hungry you have to be to get through that."
Dear God, I hope she used that knife to kill herself. Number 5. Inside. Let's just say that Inside makes Saw look like a Care Bears movie. This movie can already be hard to watch for some people. The ending doesn't make it any easier. It follows Sarah, a pregnant woman who recently lost her husband in a car accident. During Christmas Eve, a woman torments her and eventually invades her home intending to steal Sarah's unborn child. Though Sarah does her best and other characters appear to help, it seems that nothing can stop this woman from getting what she wants. It's later revealed that she had been in the same accident as Sarah and her husband, but though she survived, she lost her baby. This movie already has pretty strong scenes, both in the matter of physical violence and the psychological, and yet the ending is still quite brutal. A policeman mistakes Sarah for the woman and attacks her, hitting her stomach. The woman kills him, and to save the baby performs a C-section with a pair of scissors which kills Sarah. And that's how it ends, with the woman covered in blood rocking the baby, which, by the way, we're not even sure survived. This is another ending that people can't agree on. Is it the only sort of ending that matches the rest of the movie in terms of atmosphere and tone? Or after going through so much along with Sarah, we'll be better off with a happy ending? Number 4. Midsommar. A movie that takes a lot of inspiration from The Wicker Man, Midsommar somehow manages to have an even more depressing ending. After a tragedy in her family, Danny goes with her boyfriend Christian and his friends to Sweden, invited by another friend, Pelle, to visit his commune. The way of life is unique, to say the least. As the movie goes on, Danny is slowly lured by the ways of the commune/cult, which is made easier given her mental and emotional state. In the end, as the May Queen, Danny has to choose between Christian and someone else from the commune as the final sacrifice for the ritual. She chooses Christian. Paralyzed by a drug and unable to do or say anything, he's sealed up inside a disembodied bear and burned alive while still unable to even scream. The movie's last scene is a close-up of Danny as she begins to smile, either succumbing to the commune's way of living or to her own darkness. Or both. Okay, Christian was not the nicest guy around, but that doesn't mean he deserved this kind of death. And while his relationship with Danny was unhealthy because unto both of them, Danny has been completely gaslit into the cult's way. It's out of the frying pan and straight to the fire. Between those two, I don't know which one got the worst ending. Number 3. Skeleton Key. Skeleton Key not only twists the knife and tosses salt in your wound, but it also surprises you. When the protagonist, Caroline, starts to work as a stay-home nurse in an old mansion, things don't seem right from the start. For example, the old woman she's working for, Violet, blames the stroke of her husband, Ben, on ghosts. You see, years ago there were 2 servants, Mama Cecilia and Papa Justify, who were practitioners of hoodoo. Yes, hoodoo, not voodoo. The movie draws a difference between them. One night, the master of the house found them teaching it to his children, and he and his friends killed the 2 servants. Violet believes that they are still haunting the house. Caroline doesn't buy it and keeps trying to help Ben. Later, she's betrayed by a friend, Luke, and seems that Violet's actual plan is to kill her, using hoodoo to prolong her own life by stealing the years Caroline has left to live. But then comes the ending. Violet is actually Mama Cecilia, and the ritual makes the people involved switch bodies. To make matters worse, hoodoo only works if you believe in it, so she and Luke had been manipulating Caroline from the start to make her believe. The ritual works, and Caroline ends up trapped in an old body, given a remedy that simulates the effects of a stroke. Oh, and the traitorous friend? He's actually Papa Justify. The real Luke is trapped inside Ben's body. If that isn't enough for you, remember that the old owner of the house had killed the servants. He had actually killed his own children. Yeah, it's that much of a cruel ending, the kind that changed the whole movie, making it darker than it was the first time you watch it. I don't know about you, but I find the idea of someone forcing your soul out of your body and taking possession of it disturbing as hell. This goes to the fate worse than death list, even if Caroline is likely going to die soon. Number 2. Pet. At first, Pet seems to be a simple story about a stalker, Seth, and the woman he claims to love, Holly. Boy gets obsessed with girl, boy locks girl in a cage, boy wants girl to love him, right? No. It's actually not nearly so simple. It turns out Holly is a vicious serial killer, and Seth has kidnapped her in hopes of curing her of her violent impulses. However, even in this situation, Holly is far from defenseless or harmless. What follows is a fascinating mind game between both characters. It's important to note that neither of those characters is simply black or white. Seth was already stalking Holly before knowing who she really is. He clearly has issues that he's not willing to face. Holly, while being a killer, has touching moments at times, saying things that most people can at least relate to. How do you expect a movie like this to end then? Maybe it's Seth killing Holly and starting to stalk another girl? Maybe it's Holly getting free and killing Seth? Maybe even making him take the blame for the murders? Well, Pet goes beyond that. Yes, Holly manages to escape and later is seen with her fiancé. It turns out, however, Holly didn't kill Seth, but is keeping him in a cage, focusing her violent urges on him. By the time we see him again, he is blind, horribly wounded, and has lost at least 2 fingers. This is already pretty grim, but if you pay attention during the ending, you see that Seth actually leans into Holly's touch when she visits him. Despite everything she has done to him, he still loves her and accepts whatever comes from her, be it affection or violence. He has truly become her pet. And the spot at number 1 goes to... Invasion of the Body Snatchers. By now, even if you haven't watched the movie, or at least one version or adaptation of it, you know how it goes, right? People start to act strange, emotionless. Something about them doesn't feel right. You know what that means? An invasion. Despite our characters' resistance, most of them end up duplicated or dead. Even so, at first, it seems we can still get a hopeful ending, as we want to believe that Donald Sutherland's character, Matthew, is only pretending to be one of the aliens. Then we see that Nancy, played by Veronica Cartwright, I'm probably mispronouncing their names and I'm so sorry, has also been able to escape them for now. We feel like they might survive. Then it comes. This single scene is not only one of the most memorable endings in cinema, it's also one of the most hopeless and disturbing endings. What helps it is that Sutherland is able to somehow act in a way that fools you. You really believe that he's a human pretending to be a pod. And Cartwright's reaction is heartbreaking. According to an interview, she had not been told that Sutherland's character had become a pod, so her reaction would be more convincing. Well, it certainly worked. The moments leading to it also increase the creepy factor. The pod people are walking around in silence, with no conversation or laughter or any sound of life whatsoever, very different than what we are used to. It goes on, reaching its climax with Matthew's scream. The ending itself is brief, but it drives home the despair of being the only human left. It doesn't help that we know Nancy will likely be captured very soon. And somehow, the fact that the credits roll with no music at all emphasizes the sensation of complete defeat. It's not only a cruel ending, but one without hope whatsoever. Well everyone, this is it. Which horror movie do you think has the most messed up ending? Leave in the comments below. Please also give me a like and subscribe for future files. I'm Dr. Midnight and I'll be seeing you in the next session.